So this is one of the important questions which I really want to pick it up on, because you worked in kind of, I would say, like, production era, initial,
Yeah.
The creation of new IT era. I mean, computers as a new thing, and now the web era, and now the whole mobile era, right? So there are like four distinct. Your work throughout this four distinct decades, right?
Yeah.
How do you see, in 80s, when you talk about onboarding, what was the experience like? How was it in 90s? Yeah, 2000, and I just, I really kind of, it really, we want to understand how it, how was it? Yeah.
It's changed a lot, but it's always the same. Any system would be a lot better without any users. They're always the problem. The problem is always the people. And it's the same with knowledge management. The hardest part of knowledge management is the people.
Yes.
So although, and I can tell you this, back in the 60s, when you got your mini computer or microcomputer, task number one, design and write your operating system.
Oh,
all right.
Okay.
So, that's the technical level you had. Now, of course, your phone has all this wonderful AI in it. Well, it hasn't got it in the phone, but it's got all these wonderful things, and we're working at such a high level, and that's what I maintain, and why agile works, by the way, is that if I'm a developer, I have got such fabulous tools that I can go from the client's mouth to code, turn it around in 30 hours, and give them back the product that they've asked for.
Yeah. Execution.
And so we can then incrementally work with a working model of what they're talking about. And we may even do an A versus B versus C comparison, and do three different builds, three different solutions. And we've got the capacity and the resources to fit a budget to do that. And that's what agile is. Agile is very simple: fixed resources, variable deliverables. And it works really well. And I've been using it since 1983. So it works really well. But
I think I do agree. I mean, in terms of the kind of infrastructure, technology infrastructure, and speed at which you can execute.
You cannot build a bridge in an agile way. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
You can't build a building in an agile way. You can do the fit out in an agile way, but you can't build the building.
Yeah. So there's real physical. The law for the physicalness of the world is still intact, but the law on the digital world has kind of it's broken the Moore's law, right? I think that's the precise thing.
And I think there's some very useful things that I've picked up in terms of your knowledge base and how that gets used. You could write a procedure manual which says, you will do this, you will do that, etc. But I take comfort from the fact that when you're looking with the fire brigade in my state, it says, do not form your action plan until you get on site and see what it really means. In other words, you've got all this information about the fire while you're getting there, but don't prejudge what the situation is. Only work from intelligence on the site. And I think that's rather good in terms of if you're coming up to, in a project, and you're coming up to an area, you've got an idea of how it was estimated, but really sit back and reevaluate, do a pre-mortem, and reevaluate how you're going to tackle that, because there could be opportunities there, or there could be differentials because of other factors which are now affecting it. My construction industry bosses said, that you make or lose your profit when you do the estimate, because you estimate how you're going to do the building, right?
Yeah.
And that's where you make your profit. From then on, you can only lose profit. I don't think that's necessarily true anymore, but I think it's a pretty good rule.
True. No, I think it's an amazing nugget of wisdom. It only comes with your deep experience over a period of so many decades. I have to use decades. Yeah. Um, I actually have two more questions. One is, when we are talking about this, the profession of knowledge management and information management, and specifically in our community, the pandemic has kind of really pushed the organization to the really the economically it's kind of tumbling down, and a lot of organizations who are kind of going in turmoils, and some of the organizations are cutting down the manpower. How do you see or like what has been the case in Australia? Like how many is there kind of any statistics in terms of generally what happens is most of the time organizations focuses on uh, roles specifically in such areas so that they can kind of cut down manpower. Have you kind of come across during this pandemic times? And what's your take on this?
Our unemployment rate has gone up.
Yeah.
Obviously, there have been cutbacks across the board, but what's happened is that certain industries have been decimated. Tourism, hospitality have been completely decimated. I guess manufacturing, certainly in the states where we've been successful with COVID, has kept going to somewhat. But bear in mind, there's been a lot of government incentives to keep workers on. That will disappear in March. So we will not really see the effect of COVID on businesses until March, because basically the government is paying people's wages.
Yeah. Okay.
Or a large part of their wages, and that will stop in March, and that's when it'll all come unstuck. So we're right through till then, and that was a commitment by the government, and you've got to applaud them for that. It was a pretty courageous thing, and we'll be in deficit for a long time, but we're alive. How robust companies will be and how prepared they'll be to then start re-employing, I don't know. At the moment, companies are really looking at survival still. It's business as usual means, have we still got the door open? And that's because of the lack of demand.
Yeah, of course.
And
it's global phenomenon.
Just to give you some idea, a lot of the horticulture around me relies on air freight to Singapore and Hong Kong every day. That got shut down, right? And so that industry got wiped out. Now they started up the cargo flights very quickly, but there's still ramifications in other industries from the same sort of thing. You can't get certain things in Australia because they were air freighted in, and the planes aren't flying. There are certain problems with just getting stuff through the ports now because of the backlogs. But see, Australia's got so many export industries. Oil and gas and minerals and that sort of thing hasn't been affected much by COVID because it's an export industry, still going to China, and so forth. So they have not necessarily been affected, and that's a big part of the Australian economy.
Yeah. That's I think everywhere the global it's become a global phenomenon. Even in this part of the world, oil and gas it's really hit very hard on the margins and even the demand and supply. So
Well, what's happened, of course, is that with the shutdown of industry, the demand for electricity has gone. And so that's had a flow-on effect. The demand for petrol has gone.
Yes.
Petrol stations aren't selling because people aren't travelling. They're staying at home. And so all of these factors are coming in. At the same time, you're getting transformation in that energy industry. Last week, our state was 100% renewable energy. The whole state was running on renewable energy for a day. That's because we had a lot of wind. So that sort of transformation is happening, and that's going to have a big effect on the energy related companies more than COVID.
Indeed,
Because
yeah.
In the middle of the COVID epidemic, we're still putting in big solar farms. They're still going in every day. Big solar batteries are going in every day. So there's a lot going on. But in Victoria, for example, the state of Victoria, which has got a lot of manufacturing, that has been hard hit because people have not been able to go to work. They've had a 5-kilometre radius, and they've not been allowed to go to work. So that's been a big problem, and so those industries will be really suffering over there.
Yeah, that's unfortunate, and I only hope that vaccination comes sooner, and we kind of get back to the normal as soon as possible.
Yeah. Well, just bear in mind, I'm old enough to remember the polio epidemic in Australia, and the vaccination campaign there, and it took 7 years to get 70% of some of the children vaccinated.
My God. Wow.
Okay. Now, that was a very different world.
Indeed.
But let's not think that the day the vaccine comes out, we're all going to get vaccinated. It will be a major program, and if Australia could get it done in under a year, they'll be going well.
Yeah, I'm speechless. In fact, to hear that, so much long duration, I don't think we will be able to survive so long, I guess. Yeah.
So with my 6-year-old granddaughter, she's going to have a childhood with COVID for quite some time.
Yeah.
I think.
Inevitable, yeah. Probable future, yes. Ian, I think it's wonderful chatting, and I don't mind chatting with you for another 1 or 2 hours. You're is an epitome of wisdom and experience.
I'm just a practitioner working at the bottom level, and although I'm part of the Knoco group and we are a worldwide consultancy, I still think that the work is done in the trenches, as Nick Milton says, and face to face and in the businesses.
I can completely
that's where we should be focusing. Yeah. Okay.
I can completely relate to you. And is there anything specific message or anything which you want to share? Any specific?
Not really. And thanks very much for your interest, and thanks very much for what you've been doing. And certainly you've brought the debate about the standard to a new level. And clarified a lot of understanding, certainly even on my part, and I'm on the committee. So we will get there in the end.
Sure, definitely. Yeah.
But it's very, very useful.
Definitely. Thanks a lot. We'll continue our communication, and I would love to have you on the chat sooner, maybe next time soon, so that we can take various other topics and discuss. It's really lovely to have you on this show. Thank you very much.
Thank you.